You are now listening to the J Ade podcast.
We're getting ready to start this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the J Ade podcast. It's your boy J Ade in the building. We are back for season 2, episode 8 of the podcast. It's your boy J Ade speaking. And before I go any further today, I would like to shout out my social media at Joe the Great, JOETHEGR number 8, as well as my podcast page at j.ade.pod. Both on the gram, ladies and gentlemen. And before we get into today's topic, I've stated my social media, but I have two very special guests on the show today. These are two people that have been a part of this journey thus far. We have a lady who has been on the show last season and this season. We brought her back for some more information and some more content upon your head top. And we have a gentleman who was on an episode in season 1, and we brought him back again because he got some insight for y'all too. So, as I always do, we're going to have the lady introduce herself first, and then we're going to have the gentleman do so subsequently. So, lady, what's your name? Where are you from? Welcome back.
I'm back.
Yes, sir.
Kirsten, KR Dot.
Okay.
From the DMV.
Yes, ma'am.
Born and bred.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, KR Dot, man. It's always a pleasure, man. The people definitely love KR Dot. Follow her, man. KR Dot, as well as the Black Renaissance Group, man. Y'all here doing big things. They just had an event earlier this week on financial literacy.
It was a very good event.
All three of us were there. It was definitely very well done. Definitely learned a lot of information about it, about financial literacy and things of that sort. So definitely check them out on social media. But we have a gentleman in the room, as I stated before, ladies and gentlemen. He is no newcomer to the show. Fella, what's your name? Where you from, man?
What's up, y'all? Y'all know who it is. It's Eenie Meenie. We out here in the flesh.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Last time I was living in L.A.
Okay.
Now we back in the DMV.
Where you belong.
Up close and personal.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? PG County, born and bred.
Yes, sir.
It is what it is, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Y'all can follow me on the gram. I changed my IG name, too. So it's at INIMEANIEE.
That's two E's at the end.
Eenie Meenie with 2 E's.
That's 2 E's at the end. No more underscore, huh?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, he said, forget the underscore, man. We on some new level.
We had to make it simple, you know what I'm saying?
I feel that, man. I feel that for sure. All right. So, as I stated, this is the 8th episode of season 2 of the JID podcast. I do not have a title for the episode yet, but I think I have one in mind. And based on how this conversation goes, it will determine what I actually name it. So, we're going to get into today's topic, man. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right. So, it goes like this. It's a statement and then there's a question at the end. So, the statement goes like this. Recently, Africans and African-American millennials have been butting heads over who has it the worst in reference to their black experience in this country. This conflict directly affects the way these two groups perceive each other in reference to upbringing and interpersonal relationships, romantic or platonic. Which group tries to distance themselves from the other group more, Africans or African-Americans? And why do you think that is? It's heavy, man. We getting into it, man. The Oppression Olympics. That's
Literally.
That's the name I'm leaning towards right now. But all right, let's do it.
Wow.
We're gonna have the gentleman answer first because we had the lady introduce herself first. So, what you think, man? Who distances themselves more, Africans or African Americans?
Shit. Wow.
That's heavy. Out the gate.
You know what I'm saying?
Out the gate.
So. Wow, Drew. Wow, nonsense. Now I have to think.
My man is stumped. Why are you stumped right here, bro? I'm gonna state my piece on it first.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
It's a lot, right?
I think that we're gonna switch it up a little bit, man. I usually have my guest answer first, but I'm gonna answer first this time. So I think that it was blatantly African Americans first out the gate that distanced themselves from Africans. Growing up in the DMV as a Nigerian, I think a lot of people in the African American community thought it was laughable to be African. Any concept of being African, whether it was bringing African food, jollof rice, or whatever the case it was to school, oh, what's that smell, blah, 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 or what are you wearing, or da-da-da-da, or like what language are your parents speaking? Like things like that were laughable growing up. You know what I'm saying? And now it feels as though a lot of African Americans are embracing African culture. So now it's like, damn, like, can we get some of that jollof rice? Or damn, bro, I kind of like that pattern you got on your, your fit. Like, who's your tailor? You know what I'm saying? Or damn, like, oh, can you teach me some Yoruba? You know what I mean? So I think now it's a little bit of Africans saying like, nah, we remember what was done to us. And now this is how I feel. Like, we're distancing. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of a flip.
Yeah.
In my eyes.
Yeah.
My question though is, you talking about right now or
correct? In this current day and age, this day.
Okay, so I agree. In this day and age, I would definitely say Africans try to distance themselves.
Why do you think that is?
More?
Why do you think that is?
Because they've been consistent.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Like, And the reason I was so stumped is because in my upbringing, as a Nigerian man as well.
Okay, so let's take a step back before you even could talk about your upbringing, right? So I wanted to know for the listeners out here, lady, what group would you classify yourself under? And gentlemen, what group would you classify yourself under? African versus African American? Both.
I don't even like using the term African American.
Okay.
Honestly.
So how would you classify yourself?
I'm black.
I'm black.
I'm
like
black.
I'm not African American.
Okay.
I think you're African American.
Correct.
You're African American.
Okay.
I am American.
I'm black.
All right. So I think in terms of that definition, at least, people define it kind of like Africans are people whose parents were living in Africa, some country, and they moved here, whether it was for school or for work, and they started a family here. And then I feel like, generally speaking, African Americans are people whose parents grew up here, and they're black, like you said, and they live here now. So based on that definition, what would y'all classify yourselves as?
Well, then I'll be African. But I think that it's funny because, as you said, a lot of the individuals who are first generation Americans,
Okay.
you're born in America, bro. You're American. Like you're an African American.
So as Kirsten was saying, yeah, like by definition, I would be the definition of an African American.
Exactly. And that's why I would say both. You know what I'm saying? Because like, yes, I have African descent and I am an African man, but at the same time, I'm also an American man.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
Okay. So going back to the initial question, right? So which group would you say distances themselves more, and why do you think that is?
right, and as I was saying, because I would say Africans do, but the reason I was so stumped is because, granted, everything that you said I agree with. Growing up, we were definitely made fun of for our food and our culture and what we wore and things like that. I mean, I embraced it, so I mean, I would just wear whatever I wanted and do whatever I wanted anyway. But what I was saying was, in my upbringing, my parents made sure to let me know that I wasn't African American. Like, they were like, "You're not black." Like, my dad and my mom would be like...
How did they do that, though? Like,
they would tell me straight up. They was like, "Yo, you're not black. You're not American. You are from this." Or like my dad would say, "You are Nigerian. You are Ibibio. You're from Akwa Ibom."
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? My mom would say, "You have Armenian descent. We come from Venezuela." They'll be like, "You're not American. Don't follow the American lifestyle. Don't be like how Americans are." So that's why I was saying, like, it was difficult because, yes, in school we were made fun of and all that stuff.
Right.
But in my house, my parents, they made sure to distance. Like, they would be like, "You are not this. Don't act like that. You are, from whatever cultures my parents came from."
So for you, your distancing, in terms of distancing yourself as an African, came from your upbringing, right?
Right. So like,
but it wasn't as overt, openly, I guess, in terms of you physically distancing yourself because you were like, whatever, I'm gonna embrace it.
Myself personally, I mean, when I went to school, I had to make my own decisions. I had to do what I was going to do regardless.
Right.
But I know that, like, for instance, with many of the kids that grew up with me in my church and stuff like that, which is a predominantly African church, we all similarly had the same upbringing in which we were raised to be African.
Okay.
We weren't raised to be African American or black or to follow that culture or that lifestyle.
Okay.
And we were specifically told not to be that. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So, okay, and hold that thought. So I wanted to hear what Kirsten has to say in terms of which group you believe distances themselves more, and do you think there's any kind of stuff going on in your household? Because kind of like what Eni's saying is pretty much his parents within his household stated, okay, you are a part of this group. We are not going to associate you with the other blacks, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying?
So for me, I always say this too, like growing up, I was never really exposed to African people.
Okay.
I went to high school and middle school, elementary school. Like, if you look at my elementary school pictures, I'm like the only black person, period.
Yeah.
So my experience with just African people and the African culture didn't even come about for me until I really got to college.
I think that's the case for a lot of people too, actually.
Yeah. So, and I, like, even in high school, I remember I had he was Ghanaian, a Ghanaian friend. His name was Hassan, and he was just black to me. It wasn't until I got to college and started engaging with Africans and seeing how, like, certain aspects of me as a black woman was kind of like looked down upon, like kind of how Eni was touching on, like, you're not them, don't be like them. Like, engaging in that kind of made me be like, well, damn.
But what does that mean to you? So, like, what components of yourself would you say that African people are like, nah, don't be like them in that way? Like, what
So I guess it's just like, the main thing that would always be looked down upon would just be like my relationship with my parents.
Okay.
So I have a relatively good relationship with my parents, and
Okay.
and even if I didn't, just the kind of person that I am, I've always been raised just to like speak my mind. So
Okay.
whoever that is, I'm gonna speak my mind.
Okay.
So I'll never forget, like one time I was having a conversation with my mom, and it might like, I guess in an African household, the conversation probably wouldn't have gone
rude.
like that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have
Okay.
gone like that.
All right.
So they just looked at me like, oh, like kind of how we look at white people, like, oh, y'all white people let your
bugging.
kids do whatever.
Yeah.
That's how they was looking at me.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, wait, hold up. Like, just because I'm talking to my mom like this, like, my mom still beat me. My mom still, like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, we're still at the same facet of life right now. So
Right.
my mom was still doing relatively the same thing that your mom was doing. So don't try to look down on my relationship with my parents or how we communicate versus how you would communicate. Like, that was probably the first instance where I was like, well, what the fuck? And then I was introduced to the word akata.
Okay.
Akata.
And what are your thoughts on the word akata? I wanted to know that. Because I think a lot of African Americans, some of them embrace it and refer to themselves as such, while others are like, there's some type of derogatory connotation.
Yeah, to me, it's always derogatory.
Okay.
It's never been said around me or to me in any way that was not derogatory. So
Can I get an example of a way that akata has been used around you before?
So working at Park Friday
Okay.
nights,
Okay.
Patio's Nigerian or
Okay.
it's African night on the patio or whatever. So they'll come.
Nigerian.
It is though, like
Shout out Park
it's
Fridays, man.
Nigerian.
Shout out
So-
Park Fridays.
And like Nigerian men, I don't know, maybe it's like a cultural thing where there's like the man. So like to have someone like me try to tell you, oh no, I need this kind of money from you.
Yeah.
I'm not
God,
expecting
you
it.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't care. Like
Yeah.
I'm at work, I need money, so this is what we're doing.
You paying or you leaving?
Yeah, so I guess I told this like one group of guys a price. They wasn't fucking with the price. So the nigga stepped off and he was looking at me and he was like, akata, and I said,
yeah.
but I'm like, but
Shy.
I guess he was older, so I don't know if he just thought I wouldn't be hip, or I don't know what
Yeah.
he thought. But
Right.
the second I heard that shit, I'm like, so your shit's canceled. Like, don't even come back. Like,
Oh, I feel that. I mean, I understand that too. And what do you think, Ini? Would you say that akata is something that it can always be used as something derogatory, or do you think there's any way to use it as a term of endearment?
In my experience, it's derogatory.
Okay.
I have been around individuals that use the term so loosely that it's just like another name.
Right.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
and I've heard that.
Yeah,
Like, people will say that to me.
I've definitely been around people who use it so much that to them is just like another name. But those people are like born and raised in Nigeria. Like they're not individuals who are, or at least in my experience, most of those people who I've met that use it like that were not born in America, or they were not raised in America. They were born and raised in Nigeria, and then they came here, and then they communicate, and they're like, "Oh, I don't understand," because like even my dad, he told me, he been talking to me all crazy lately, just hella hours, you know what I'm saying? So he was explaining to me how like in Nigeria when he was growing up, there was really no concept of like black, white, like I mean like who black and white was, but
Right.
he was like the way that people differentiated themselves was with tribes,
Right.
Right.
not other things.
Which is
So-
like common overseas. Like you don't really go many places overseas where somebody's like, I'm black.
Yeah. He was like he was until he came to America in his 30s where he was like he heard what being black was.
Right.
So like Akata and stuff like that was just a name. It was just a name to refer to.
And I actually have a point on that, but complete your thought before you.
No,
go on.
that was my
What
thought.
were you gonna say, Kirsten?
No, just that something like when people say the word to me and I get worked up by it, like I don't like it. They'll be like, well, yeah, like he said, like to some people it's just like I guess how we use the word nigga, like it's just like a word,
Right.
but nah.
But I would say that there's two sides to the spectrum, right? So I think there are people that use it as a derogatory way to say like, oh, like this American who's not as good as me, in
Right.
terms of the black spectrum. Because I feel like a lot of Africans definitely qualify or categorize themselves as people that are a little bit more motivated or elite, better. They claim like, yo, we came to this country and we doing better than a lot of these niggas that's out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is why I can see Akata being used in that kind of light. But at the same time, like Ini was saying, I don't only see it in people that live or are from Nigeria originally. I see it sometimes here too, in terms of just people using that word as a way to categorize a certain group of people. So like, let's say like, there's Akata and then there's Oyinbo, which is
Right.
like, Yoruba or like just in like a general Nigerian term for white people.
White people.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I feel like people use it in both of those ways. But I think an interesting point that Ini made was the fact that his dad didn't really realize his blackness right?
Yeah.
In reference to white people until he got to the country. And I actually saw a tweet about it. So the tweet says, I feel like what Chimamanda is essentially saying is that black as a collective identity only exists where white is the norm. In a country where black is the norm, to be black is no longer a unifying identity in the same way it is for black people living in a white man's land. Black only has meaning when juxtaposed with white and vice versa. White people don't even speak about themselves as white people except in relation to non-white people and groups.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Right.
Yeah.
And that even furthers the point as to why I feel like I would call myself black, but I wouldn't call you black.
Yeah, I mean, my dad is.
So you're saying Eni is not black?
No, I feel like no, because
what is
because
Eni?
if I leave, like, right, so if I leave the
What?
United States,
What is Eni? Let's talk about it.
Yo, this is the third time I have been called not black.
Let's talk
no,
about
but
it.
listen. So this is why. This
What
is why.
am I?
Like literally, if you look at yourself, like obviously you have black, like you have brown skin.
Brown
You're
skin.
black, right?
Right.
But if I leave this country and if I go to Africa and they're like, oh, like where are you from? I can't say anything but America. I don't
Okay.
know anything outside of America.
Because you're American, yeah.
So, but you can. You leave America and you are now
I see what you're
Nigerian.
saying.
You go
You could
to
say that,
London and
yeah.
you're now, I'm Nigerian and I'm American, or I'm this and I'm that. I don't have that luxury unless I do a mouth swab, a DNA test, and figure out.
But I feel like
what
can't you say you're an American though? Like I feel like, or say I'm an African American, right?
I could say I was an American.
But how does that make him not black though? Right? You see what I'm saying?
Because he can touch more of his African heritage than I can.
If anything, I think that just makes him closer to Africa. I don't think that makes him any less black, right?
No, but I'm not speaking in terms of like black as I'm using the coin, like when you started the conversation, you said, do you define yourself as African American? And I said, no,
right.
I'm black.
Okay.
So that's the definition. Like that's how I'm referring to the word black. Like,
Because black is more of an American type of term.
right.
Is that what
It
you're
is.
So you feel like
you-
Africans define themselves as black, but like a different kind of black.
Yeah, but no, but I think if you asked an African person, what are you? You're not going to say black.
But I feel
You
like
would say Nigerian. You wouldn't say black.
But I mean, I feel like African people typically when people ask them like, where are you from? They say, oh, like, you mean around here? Or do you mean like from?
Most African people, if you ask them like, where are you from? They're going to say, oh, I'm Nigerian. It's the same way like if you had like an Italian girl that's, where are you from? She's not going to be like, I'm white. She's going to say I'm Italian.
I mean, but that differs from people to people though. Like, you know, sometimes like there's some people that are raised as Africans but rep African American. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't rep as hard. Although, like I said, being African is the wave now, and it's a lot easier to embrace your African roots because now it's cool to be African.
I just think that the point that I'm trying to make is that you have the choice.
Okay.
So I can like if depending on what room I'm in, I can say I'm this, or I can say I'm that. I can be black, or I can be Nigerian.
Okay.
I'm black. I'm American.
So,
like that's it.
So because of that, because of the fact that Eni has the option of describing himself as either African or African American, he's not black.
Yeah.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on that, bro?
I don't define black in the same way that Kirsten does. So
Okay.
it'll be different.
How do you find it?
I mean, black to me is your skin color. So
Okay.
if anyone has the pigmentation that we have, you're black.
Okay.
Now, you can be American, you could be Nigerian, you can be, from Sierra Leone, you could be from wherever, but
Okay.
you can still be black and be from all those places.
Okay.
So but I do understand what Kirsten's saying in that when people ask me, where am I from? Or if they say like, what are you? You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna say I'm Nigerian.
I definitely say I'm African. Like I'll be like I'm
Right.
African and I'm this, which
Okay.
is what my mom's side. I'll be like I'm African Armenian. You know what I'm saying? So, but if like I get that Kirsten cannot say that. You know what I'm saying? And that
Okay.
if someone says like what are you or where are you from, she'll be like I'm black. You know what I'm saying? Or she'll be like I'm American.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what the term African American means. You know what I'm saying? Like to be a black person in America to me means African American.
Okay, so for you, like it's more of a if you look this way, you are black, as opposed to Kirsten, where it's like
your
experience makes you
right.
black.
Yeah.
All right, so and I'm gonna bring up another tweet. I won't be naming none of these Twitter names. I just be screenshotting their tweets and reading them. So there's this thread on Twitter that got a lot of outrage, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to present to y'all, and it says black and African are not synonymous. If you are black, you obviously have African blood, but just because you are African does not mean you're black. If your
that's
ancestors
stupid.
were not enslaved and you don't have the black experience, you are not black. What do y'all think about that?
See, no sense.
I have things to say, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to hear from Eni first, and then we can go to Kirsten, and then I wanna say some things about this too.
Okay, so shit like that, it, to me, is completely idiotic.
Mainly that last part. If your ancestors were not enslaved and you do not have the black experience, you are not black. What does that mean, please? Like, please try to explain it to me. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay. First of all, it is completely idiotic to say that someone doesn't have the black experience. That doesn't make any sense. If you're black, you have...
it definitely makes sense.
Because at the end of the day, white people, if you and Eni were to walk into
a room
together,
we are both black.
Yeah, and some white people, and y'all only black people, they're gonna view the same. They're not gonna say,
right,
"Oh,
no,
you're
that's what I'm
African."
saying. But I'm saying that in itself is the black experience. So you can't say that there's like it's idiotic to say.
No.
But the tweet says, she said, if you do not have
what she said in that, or he, because we don't know who it is.
It was a she.
Okay.
I mean, that's my assumption. I didn't assume her gender, ladies and gentlemen. I did not know she identifies as.
Whomever the tweeter may be.
Okay. No, you're good. Because I thought you were just saying in general, like, there's no such thing.
No. What they're saying in that an individual cannot have the black experience unless their ancestors endured slavery and stuff like that makes absolutely no sense, because all of us, and my dad taught me all this shit too. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, if your skin color is a certain type of way and you walk into a room with white people, you are black. Y'all all the same.
Right.
Yeah, all exactly the same.
That's facts, but I think that, like, I think it would be more beneficial for us to talk about this tweet in the context of the division between.
And that's what I'm saying. The division nonsense. That shit is nonsense to me, because it doesn't matter if I'm American or African. It doesn't. That
so
to
white
me
people,
don't
we are
matter.
just as black as each other, though.
Exactly.
Right. So, but my thing is, so then if that's the case, then why is there even a divide? Why are there even derogatory terms between the two? Like,
there's a divide because there's difference in culture. So, for instance,
I would like to hear this.
So for instance, like, as you already mentioned it before.
Okay.
Not you, Joe, but Kirsten did.
All right.
And that the way that some families operate in the African American or black culture is not aligned to the African culture. So because there's a difference, it's kind of like, as Joe said before, an elitist mentality, in that you have these individuals who they're raised a certain type of way, they have a certain type of belief, and they believe that their shit is the shit. That's just it. It's like, what we believe is supposed to be what it is. And when other people don't do that, we look down upon them. So so
you're saying Africans have kind of set their culture as a standard.
Yeah, it's a standard.
That's always been confusing to me.
Because it was a world standard at one point, though.
But so for me, being black and having ancestors who literally built this country,
right, with their own hands.
How can you take your culture and bring it here and now make it the standard?
No. Look, we don't have to make it the standard for the like I said, in my household, my parents made sure that my household and how I operated was not the same as everybody else. Now, you can do whatever you want to do outside, but for you and this house, it's going to be a certain type of way. And how I'm supposed to treat other people is supposed to be how I was raised. So, for instance,
but that's fair. I think the thing that I'm just trying to understand is the better or worse. Like, how do we determine what's better or worse? Right.
Oh, and I mean, I guess that could be through media. I mean, like, just media outputs of what, Africans at one point of time saw to be Black Americans, and then what Black Americans saw to be Africans. Because, like, when we grew up, we was getting joked upon, like, oh, y'all niggas live in huts. Y'all niggas climb trees. But think about y'all niggas do this.
Yeah, but then on the reverse, like I said before, when I was growing up, I'm getting, oh, Kirsten, y'all about to fry your turkey for Thanksgiving. Y'all about to eat watermelon. Y'all about to eat fried chicken. Like, that's the kind.
And that's what was exposed to.
But what Eni's saying, though, is that those points were not coming. But you said you didn't even know African people, so those are coming from white people.
Right.
Eni's point, what he's talking about, is coming from black people.
Yeah.
Black people are the ones making these comments about about
us.
But like you were saying, though, Kirsten, the thing is, I think that the reason why a lot of black people are starting to, I guess, like African culture so much more is because they're starting to actually bond with us as people. You know what I'm saying? And your point was like, okay, it wasn't really till you got to college that you really started to, like, you know what I'm saying, really mix with African.
Yeah, but I think, but the thing is, that story was to also exposed to the opposition, which was I came from a background where like my parents taught me black is black is black is black,
right.
and then I get to college and now I'm being called derogatory terms,
right.
And that was never even the energy that I was taught to put out.
And I think it's also because the basis, or at least in my opinion, the basis of Nigerian culture is respect, and what they view respect to be.
So would you say the basis of African American culture is not respect?
Not in the Nigerian scale. So that's what I'm saying.
So you believe that Nigerians believe that African Americans are generally not respectful people?
Oh, 1,000%.
Okay.
That was one of the most like pushed forward points in like my upbringing, and it was always.
So you were raised to know that
don't act like this because we are not like them. We don't do this like them because they operate in the streets. They operate like this. They operate like that, and those are things that are sent to these are things that they are unknowledgeable about. You know what I'm saying? Like so and when they're, you know, like I said, my parents didn't grow up here. So their knowledge of Black Americans comes from what they can see in the media.
Right.
So what they see in the media is jail rates, drug rates, gang violence, things like that. That becomes the norm of what Black people are.
I actually wanted to talk about that too, like the crimes thing and how that plays into it. But
and it's crazy because even though it's, it's statistically, what it is, but for those who are born and raised in other countries, I don't think that they're getting that great educational push to understand like the racism and all those things that attribute to that. So to them, they're like, this is how these niggas act. These niggas are wild and ass, disrespectful motherfuckers. And then they come to America, like my dad did. He came to America and he was ridiculed by Black people as well as white people. So he's like, shit, I'm not Black. He's like, I'm not African American. I can't be with the white folks, so I can only be with the African folks. And our culture is how we operate, so this is how we're going to be. And like I said, the standard of respect, of what respect is in an African construct is not the same. Because I believe that there are many similarities between an African American and an African household. Actually, a lot of similarities.
Okay.
But the crazy thing about it is that if we went story by story and I told you about the shit that I did in my house that I got like punished for because it was disrespectful,
but
you would be like,
and we talked about that.
Is like, I think we kind of touched on it with like corporal punishment and all that.
Parental control, yeah.
Like you
episode 2, go get that, yes sir.
But it's like, if I ask most of my like Nigerian millennial friends, they just talk about how toxic it is.
Right.
So
that's a mindset. Okay. Also, this whole toxic stuff, in my opinion, that's a mindset. Okay, like it's by person, especially because I'm studying, trauma and clinical social work as well as psychology. I want to be a clinical psychologist that focuses strictly on PTSD and trauma. Okay. So when it comes to that, it's person to person. So it can be toxic to some individuals. To some individuals, it may not be toxic. It's always about how it was catered to that individual, like your environment. So some environments are definitely more toxic than others, right? Because I've definitely seen that. Like I've seen environments that my parents have never put me in.
I think that there's like pretty standard categories within the realm of toxicity that a lot of Nigerian children would say that their parents exemplify.
All right. So what I'm saying though is that that's to them. Because, like, for instance,
I feel like in order to have a conversation, you have to speak to some level of generality.
You can't
even just like in terms of like gender norms within the African household.
I get that, but there are many individuals who would say that their upbringing helped them be the way they are today in a positive light. Like, for instance, my upbringing that I have.
No one's like negating that. Like, it could have helped you in a positive way, but the method still could have been toxic, and it just happened to work out well.
Yeah,
I don't know, because I don't know, because things are becoming way more and more lenient nowadays. Like everything becomes okay. Everything needs to be lenient. Everything needs to be catered to the niceness of people's lives, and that's not the basis at least from my upbringing and what I've seen in other Nigerian cultural upbringings,
Right.
that's not the basis of an African upbringing. It's not to be niceness and goody and all, everything's going to be,
and I understand everything's going to be all right
okay.
kind of thing. Patting me on the back.
No, it's not like that.
And I understand that too. And I think that I kind of wanted to present the other side of the argument. I know that you said that, your household has taught you to be some, rough and tough kind of, life is hard kind of,
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there was a level of strictness.
Right.
Not necessarily rough and tough. Like I wasn't brought up to be like, oh,
don't have any
fuck
emotions
this
kind of
shit.
thing.
Yeah. I wasn't taught
But then
that.
I guess to that same argument, if you feel like your house was strict and it's led you to be successful, and I too grew up in a strict household and it led me to be successful, but it's not necessarily to the African standard of strict
then
or
what's
African
right?
standard of respect.
Then what's right?
Then how can one right?
Like, what's right then at that point? Because if you have two different, upbringings and two different results, or well, the same result, then what's different? Because I feel like on the African American side of things, a lot of my African American friends have kind of stated that, well, on the African side, first of all, let me address that. The African side, they usually say, okay, my parents struggled to, get to this country and things like that. And as a result of that, I was raised to really appreciate what they had done for me. However, on the African American side of things, I've heard African American people say that, well, our ancestors were slaves, so we owe it to them to behave in this certain light as a result of
Not
that.
even to, like, literally my grandmother's mother was a slave.
God
So
damn.
that's
kind of crazy.
Yeah, like that's not my
That's not that far
No,
removed
my
at all.
grandmother's mother. My grandmother's mother was a sharecropper, and so my grandmother was 2 generations outside of slavery.
That's actually wild. I mean, and I think I think that is the kind of mentality that drove that one tweet that was saying that if your ancestors were not enslaved, then you're not black, because they kind of feel like, what, y'all Africans just kind of came to our country and kind of try to take shit over
And shit on us.
But y'all niggas weren't in with us shooting in the gym type shit. You know what I'm saying? Y'all sold us literally. And
yeah, but you also have to take it from the standpoint, like we were saying, you talked about one side plus the other side. So
Right.
you have to take it from the side of that, there are people who came to this country mad chilling, just trying to better their
I think
lives.
that's why there's like also a divide, at least for me, where there was like a level of animosity for a minute, because like that's not the side that was ever presented to me. Like the Africans that I knew were always like, yeah, like this is cool or whatever, but back home, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
We living like this, we got that. So it was never like we came here and we're struggling just like you're struggling. Like it was like, this is cute.
Yeah, but we're better than you. And
I'm
that's
out.
kind of what Ina was saying once again.
And that's what I was talking to about, like the just the belief. It's like, what was that actress from Insecure when she went on the podcast and talked about how Nigerians have this pride, like they have this level of
Yvonne Orji, you talking about the lawyer one?
Yeah, she was talking about how like Nigerians and maybe Africans in general just have this pride,
About
like this
them, yeah.
this essence of self pride, where we're just like, we are the shit.
Yeah, but I think we
Period.
would have it too if we had a home base. If I could be like,
But you do have a home
But
base.
even though, that's what I'm saying though. I feel like a
Your
lot
home
of
base is America.
No, my home base is my
Africa.
little piece.
I think the
of
home
what,
base is Africa, to be honest.
No,
I don't
because if you
think
think
so.
about it, it's not. No,
Well, it could be both.
But if
Okay.
you think about it,
It could be both.
In America, if you ask someone where they're from, I'm not saying America. I'm from DC. I'm from New York. I'm from Oakland. I'm from here. It's not, America is not our home.
Okay.
It's whatever little piece of
Well,
whatever we've kind of established for it.
I would say that white people made it that way for y'all.
Yeah, they did.
White people constructed that belief.
No, but they
Because-
also physically
Well, yeah.
pushed us into certain boroughs that we've had to make home.
with city linings and stuff like that. But I'm talking about the belief that, I'm from this city and you're from that city, so there's now a
divide between us. You
divide.
can't unify.
Not a divide, but just like, so like I said, you said that we have a home base. No, we don't, because at the end of the day, I can say I'm from DC.
You were placed there, kind of.
But like,
yeah.
you can say, oh yeah, I'm here, but I can go back here where I'm really good. Like, it's a different level.
But you can't say that, because if you look at the state of Nigeria right now, you can't be like, well, I'm just gonna go to Nigeria and be really good.
No, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is,
But then also-
Joe, when you go home for Christmas, where are you going?
Still stay with the fam.
To stay with your family.
Yeah.
If you were to go home, where were you going? You're not staying in a hotel. You staying with your family. If I go to Africa, any country,
Get an Airbnb.
You know what I'm saying? I gotta get an area. I gotta get a hotel. It's different.
But that speaks to my point in that America is your home. So
No,
and
it's
that's,
not,
and that's
because
what I'm
you
saying.
can go home and feel at home.
But
I'm in America.
But that's because our parents are from there.
But I'm saying in America, I don't even feel at home as an American in America.
I mean, but and that's
So
what I was
it's different.
talking. That's what I was trying to talk to you about earlier.
And for that reason, you're saying because you don't know what your true home is why you are holding on to the title of
but
being
not even
black.
that, but also to the fact of like he's saying like, oh, African people as a people, they have such pride in themselves and where they come from. It's lucky for you.
But what I'm saying though,
because I wish that I could have the same pride. All I can have the pride in is DC, Maryland, Virginia.
I feel that. Okay, and to that point, right? So I kind of wanted to take a twist of it because, this slavery connotation of you're black versus you're not black because your ancestors weren't slaves. And I wanted to kind of take that in that same direction and ask you guys. I saw another post. I'm not going to read out the tweet or anything like that, but it was pretty much stating that if your ancestors were not slaves, you cannot use the N-word.
Okay, that's dumb.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's dumb.
But that N-word argument is it's such a hard lane to navigate. Because
the N-word is niggas, or for those who don't know out there, niggas.
It's so hard to navigate who can use this word. But I guess you don't have to be enslaved. I think the N-word, it goes back to what you were saying before. If we walked in a room and white people saw a lineup, who are they calling black and who are they not? And if you are
but
viewed by
you're fitting into my point. Then you're saying so that means that he is just as black as you because
we're talking about using a word.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. A word. Black is a word. Nigga has been given this connotation. Nigga is also a
black
word.
People.
Nigga is just as much of a word as black. It's just not as offensive.
Yeah,
it's
but black also comes with a whole nother list of culture.
Right,
There's much more that goes into the terminology of calling yourself black versus calling yourself a nigga.
I agree.
Using the word nigga.
Yeah, from the way that she looks at it.
Okay.
Because from the way that I look at it, that would be African American. Being African American comes with the culture.
Okay.
But black is literally your skin.
Yeah.
If we walk into the room, I keep referencing my dad because he came from Nigeria and said that when he arrived in America, people were calling him nigger, and he had to ask he was like, what the hell is that? He was like, why are they calling me this? Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? And he found out that it was a derogatory term towards him because of his skin color.
Right.
Not because he was from Africa, but because of how he looked. Okay. And he was just like, well, at that point, you the same as him. Yeah, me and you, we the same. We gonna get treated the same.
But yeah, I guess, but see, that's why I was saying from the beginning, it's so hard because the thing that whenever this conversation comes about, I always reference Afro-Latinas who sometimes don't even like to be referred to as black. They don't call them.
That's a whole nother shit, bro. They on their own shit.
But that's a group of people. If you were I'm black, they're like, no, I'm not. I'm Dominican. I'm this. I'm that.
Okay, yeah,
and again, and that's why I said I could see some of your points when you were speaking because some Africans, when you be like, oh, you're black, they be like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
They be like, I'm African, or they'll be like, I am
whatever.
But why? But why do y'all think that is? So Eni kind of made this point of it comes from a sense of pride associated with what we did to come to this country, kind of thing. But you're saying that it comes from the historical connotation of how we got here, and the fact that black people built this country.
Right.
I think that, like I said before, it's the portrayal of what African American people are to the country, to the world.
Okay, but now
to the world.
I'm thinking because so you were kind of brought up in this background just from your parents seeing the media and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So do you think your parents would refer to themselves as, your parents don't refer to themselves as black?
My dad does.
He does now?
No, he does. He does because my dad has a PhD in United States history. And he's an author. Mm-hmm. So he's written about all of this stuff. So throughout his research and things like that, he has come to the understanding that
I am black.
That I am black. I am not African American. Because he's not from America. Right. So he's like, I'm not African American. I guess technically, because he just got his citizenship, technically he could be African American. But until then, he was like, I am a Nigerian man who is living in America, but I am black because that's how they see me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess it just depends on what context you're talking about these terms in, because
Yeah.
obviously as a group talking about these terms as it relates to white people
Right.
is going to be a very different conversation than how we use the terminology within ourselves as a diaspora.
And I think that the context definitely makes a big difference. And I feel like a lot of African Americans feel the same way that you do in terms of Kirsten, in terms of I am in America, I'm from America, but I don't feel like this is home to me. And I think that that's interesting because I was making that point earlier that a lot of Africans feel as though African Americans are trying to associate themselves with African culture in order to be cool. But from what you're saying, it sounds like you just want to know where you belong.
No, not even that. I love it. Like,
Right.
I love
you look like-
African.
But speaking on, all right, so speaking on that is very interesting. So speaking on what you guys said is very interesting because
Okay.
my view is different, right? So
Okay.
you've been to Nigeria multiple times, right?
Right.
Okay. And we're both Nigerian, right?
Right.
But okay, I'm Nigerian. I was born and raised in PG County.
Right.
Home to me is America because I've never been to Nigeria. I have been to Venezuela multiple times. Home to me is not Venezuela. Home to me is America. This is where I was born. This is where I was raised. This is where my roots are. This is where my family is.
That's interesting because of what you said before about how your parents made such a point to kind of instill this fact in you that you are not
that you're foreign,
this,
but
right?
yet they're
And but
not
that's still like
exposing you
what
to
you
it.
latched
Well,
to.
because
So that
to
means they
me-
didn't get the job done in theory.
Yeah.
Hey,
No, okay.
Ain't no shade to the parentals. So call it like I see it.
I mean, for me, it's just logic because it's like this. Okay, so my dad can call Nigeria home, for instance, right? Because he has family there. He can go there. That's actually where he's from.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now, Joe can call Nigeria home if he wants to because he has placed roots there and stuff like that.
Okay.
And everything like that. He has experienced that lifestyle, blase, you know. But Joe, were you born in Nigeria?
I was born in Silver Spring, Maryland.
But
All right,
Joe
and then-
lived in Nigeria for
I did, but
No, he
that
did.
was because I was bad, though.
but okay, so you were born in Maryland, right? And most of your life you were raised where?
I was raised in Maryland as well.
He was raised here. So for Joe, for real, this is his home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is where he's from. And I've never, I get it because I understand we've taken the classes and we've experienced racism ourselves and stuff like that.
Right.
I get the whole fact of we're not from here. We were taken away from our own place and
Right.
blah, 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 blah. But at some point in time, in my opinion at least,
Okay.
I think that people have to realize, no, we are from here. We have just as much right as everyone else from here because we were born here. We were raised here. This is where our families are. This is where our roots are. Niggas are literally trying to leave other countries to come here.
That's true.
They are like trying their hardest
Because
to
especially
leave,
in
to
Africa,
come
I
here.
feel like it's common for people to say that America is kind of the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because black people in America are looking, at least now in this generation,
No,
now
no,
that
it's not even that, bro. We've all been out of the country, I believe, right?
Right.
All of us have been out of the country. No matter where we've gone, there is no place like America. Maybe other than Europe, maybe. But like I even went to Mexico and like the way that people operate, like the laws and stuff like that, is not like here. You know what I'm saying? It's honestly and maybe people don't believe this, but to be honest, it is a privilege to be here. And that's how many of our parents thought about it. Because, like, as you said, you've met multiple African individuals whose parents are like, oh, back home, we have this. My dad, even just this morning, he's talking about how he was raised in the village. He had nothing. He was like, yeah, even though my bloodline goes to the founder of our village, and technically I can claim lands and all these things, he was like, what is that really? We don't have nothing. Like, it was a struggle to go to school. All we did was farm. All we did was this. He was like, to come to America was such a blessing. Same thing for my mom. You know what I'm saying? So it's very funny to me when people don't want to claim their rights here in this
I don't think
land.
that is that they don't.
I don't think
to.
it's about claiming rights at all, to be quite honest.
So then,
I don't think it's about rights. I think
Well,
it's
I
about
mean,
just-
when I say their rights, I mean like the right to say that
I'm American.
we are just as much as American as everyone else. This is
But what
our
Kirsten
home.
is saying is that although she appreciates, African culture for what it is, she still does not associate herself as she sees herself as a black person, but does not see you as one.
No, but what I was speaking to was not that point.
Okay.
I was speaking to the point of where she said, even though she sees herself as black and me not as black,
Okay.
she does not see this land, which apparently, according to all these tweets, black is coming from as her home.
Because it's not. Like, and that's,
So then
I think
where else would be?
That's more of a societal thing than anything.
So where else would be?
I think that's so interesting, right? Because to that point, right, of this is not my home. I think something that was so interesting was how fascinated African American people were with Wakanda.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of it being a nation. Like, I think it's so interesting because to Kirsten's point about how, you know, I want to know where I'm really from. I feel like when people saw this Wakanda and, like, you know, this is in Africa and things like that, a lot of Africans were outraged by this because they felt like, why are y'all not showing our countries the same amount of love y'all showing Wakanda? Which I think is so
Which is not real, by the way.
Yeah,
and then on top
but
of
I don't think, I think it, again, like, it's like way deeper than that. Like, even like, if I was to get on Uber Eats right now, right?
Yeah.
So like when you think of food, like good Southern black food, what you thinking of? Fried chicken, mac and cheese, all that shit, right? If I go on Uber Eats right now, there's a Italian category, there's a Spanish category, Mexican category, there's an African category. You know what my food's called? Comfort food.
Hey, man.
So it's like little shit like that you don't really pay attention to.
Shit.
But it's like little things like that. It's like, what the fuck?
So then, I mean, it's a
seriously.
It's a subsector of American food, though, because you guys are American. Well, we are all American.
Then why isn't it called American? Because there's an American category.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's why I said a subsector.
Why? If I'm American and we're all American, why my food isn't just American?
That's something we as a collective need to fight for, and that's what I've been saying.
That's the reality.
But what
so
are they
those
gonna
are
call
the
it,
kinds
though?
of things
Black food?
No, it's just American. If I'm an American, like Eni says, I have claims to this land. I have claims. Then my food's American.
Yeah, it is.
Why my shit separate?
But I mean,
when I fill out my paperwork, I'm American. So why I gotta check black?
And that's the shit that I was saying that I feel like we need to fight for as
but I'm
Americans.
saying, so it's not necessarily that I don't want or I'm not trying to claim ownership. That's just literally not the case.
So my question then is, where is your home? Since apparently here is not your home, where is it?
Where my heart is.
what the fuck? What the hell?
Nah, but honestly, the older I get, the more I do have a desire just to like
research and like know more, right?
Yeah, and know more.
Which is fair. But at the same time, though, I think that a lot of black people and a lot of African people claim that, okay, there's no divide, but we really see the divide a lot more when it comes time to really discuss the family institution. This is me taking a complete different direction in this whole conversation. And in the family institution, what I mean by this is that I feel like, so to Eni's point about the whole respect thing, right? Yeah. So let's take a step back from the respect thing altogether. A lot of black people and a lot of African Americans have a lot of arguments. I was actually just talking to Kirsten about this in terms of how people name their children, right? Mm-hmm. So recently there was a tweet. I've been referencing tweets the whole day. But there's a tweet that said,
Thank you, Twitter.
Black, for real, though, man.
Sponsor this podcast.
Shout out Twitter, for real. That would be big money. Nah. So the tweet says, Black Americans are making fun of Doja Cat's real name, Zandil Dlamini, like they don't name their babies LaQuisha. So I think that it's pretty interesting. So just like I said, taking a complete different direction in terms of this whole argument of Africans versus African Americans, I feel like this feeds directly into Eni's point of, we are this superior group of black people, and we were able to sit down and give our children names with meanings, while these, I guess, quote unquote, inferior black people in this country didn't really put that much thought into it. And I kind of want to get you guys' feelings on that kind of stuff.
I'll let Kirsten go first.
I mean, I wouldn't say that, because if you think about it, most of your names, most African names that I've encountered, they're either directly, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're either directly correlated to your tribe.
Okay, right.
Or they're names from the Bible. For the most part. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair assumption. That's literally how it is for me.
So, and that I think has to do with your culture.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that within black culture, they just like to use more ethnic or urban names.
Why do you think that is, though?
Yeah, why?
Why do you think that is?
I don't know why. Because I mean, my name's, none of my siblings have.
Why can't this nigga name be Tanner or Spencer?
Nah, and not even that.
I mean,
though.
my name's Kirsten.
But that's what I'm saying, though. I think that's so interesting. I think that's just another way for African people to try to make themselves
feel better
than other black people.
Well, I again, it sucks, but the statistics and the media portrayals speak for themselves. Like, I think I saw I don't know if this is true or not, but I think I saw some statistic that said, like, it was something crazy. This may not be true, but it was like 80% of all black doctors in America are of like African descent or something like that.
I've seen those posts as well.
And then it was like Nigerian women are the most educated group of minorities, period. Mm-hmm. And then there's like, you just look at the statistics, you know what I'm saying? So Nigerians, or I can only say Nigerians because I'm Nigerian.
Right.
So Nigerians are looking at stuff like this and they're like, why would we put ourselves in the same category as people who are not fucking with us? Like in the same
outweighing these categories like that much, right?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like they're saying, okay, these are the statistics, these are the portrayals that we see. Then we come here to America and see it like with our eyes, and we may not, I mean, even though it may be a little bit biased, and again, what I said before about the lack of knowledge of the, the racism and institutionalized and system, all that stuff. So then they're just like, yo, this is what we're seeing. Why would we categorize ourselves with them? And then on top of that,
eventually that just becomes a cop out because.
Okay. Now let's talk about why it's a cop out though.
Because you are even sitting here right now saying that like, oh, once your dad did the research.
He started to
How many niggas read, bro?
But I'm saying
let's really think about that.
But guess what? It's 2019. You don't have to read. You can listen to it. You can hear it.
That's true.
If you really are
and how many people are listening to that type of stuff?
No, because at the end of the day, I could have fallen just in line with these black people that y'all are speaking of and saying like,
and you're also educated though.
That.
But you're also educated.
But not even being educated, I'm just an open person.
Yeah.
I'm an open-minded person. I don't have to do research. I couldn't really tell you anything about like the African history of like I couldn't tell you anything. Right. I just know that I like people that like me, and I'm open to like nice
who fuck with me.
Right. So if you cool, like I said, like my boy in high school, he was African, and in my mind, he was black. I never even knew
he was African.
Because the way I grew up, where I grew up, it was us and them. It was black and white. That's it. Yeah. So it wasn't even until I got older and realized, oh shit, no wonder he was like dark. He
all right, but think about it.
I just thought he was.
But think about it in this
vacation
mindset.
in Jamaica. I don't know.
No, but think about it in this mindset, and then not to say that I'm not trying to say that you're wrong or anything like that, because I agree with what you're saying. But like, think about it in this mindset. You're coming from a completely different country, and your goal is to separate yourself in a manner that puts you at the highest level of success.
Right.
Why would you want to categorize yourself with someone who is portrayed to you as unsuccessful?
Because then by that same logic, so this whole concept of colonialism that we are, what is that the word?
Well, we don't know what you're trying to talk about.
Slavery, like enslaving people?
No, like how we always say like Europeans just come and enter a country, take it over and put their own shit in it. And
I want to say that I think colonialism is the right word.
But I don't think that Nigerians do that.
No, but I'm saying,
or any African.
But I'm saying,
country does.
By that same logic, they come into a country that they have no claims to.
Mm-hmm. Try to take over, and the people that are there are now inferior to them because of this, that, and the third. Why would I subscribe to their beliefs because they're doing it this way, that way, and that way when I have my own methodology? But do you believe that? I mean, to a certain degree, these Africans are justified based on statistics that Eni stated.
Not necessarily, because there's so much. Because even statistics in the United States are skewed. Okay. Like a lot of.
If my man saying 80% of whatever he was saying,
we're gonna have to fact check that. But it's a very high number.
I'm saying statistics are just that they're just statistics.
Right.
It's on you as an adult to do your research to see what's going on in your area. Because if I was in West Bubblefuck Wichita and there was one doctor and it was a Nigerian woman, well, would you look at that? Now it's 100%. Like you just have to, like, it's on you to just do more and be more open.
Right.
Especially if you're entering into another, like, it's like now if we all were in corporate America and we were at a work function and you worked for a different department, you was in a different department, I was in a different department, and we entered the room and saw a bunch of white people, we gonna gravitate to each other.
But I think also too, like what Joe was saying, with the differences in household and stuff like that. And I spoke to this before.
Yes,
is to just cultural belief and respect. So it's like, and I've seen this shit happen in person. someone's making fun of, for instance, my name. My full name is Iniobong. It means God's timing. I was named that for a specific reason, right?
Okay.
That is very, very meaningful to me and to my family.
Okay.
Now, not my parents, but let's say another parent named their child Iniobong, right? And they go and ask somebody whose name is like Diavante or something like that.
Okay.
What does your name mean? Why were you named that? They can't tell them anything. And then they're like, so you just give names? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that speaks to the culture and the way that, you know, our society runs, in that those differences. And I don't believe that makes I don't believe that makes anybody better than anybody else.
Would you say that the African American side is not justified based on that? What you're saying, their quote unquote lack of culture.
But I feel like that also just maybe that speaks to like, we just value different things, because when my parents thought of names for me and my siblings,
right.
They were thinking of names that looked white on paper.
Right.
And that's the meaning. It means white on paper. So my child can submit a resume, can submit an application, and not be prejudged
Right.
based on her name.
I feel like many Africans do that as well, though, because like, look at Joe. Joe's name is Joseph, and then his middle name is
but Joseph
is something.
Joseph is
Adil
from the Bible.
Yeah, but it's still but that's still a generic, quote unquote,
No, it's
white
not generic.
name.
But that just speaks to
Call
an
him
aspect.
generic. What y'all say about my
That
parents?
just speaks to an aspect of your culture that just differs from our culture. Like, y'all put a heavy value on names
and respect, and like for instance, like, okay, I've heard many African American women say that they can never marry a Nigerian man because of the culture that we come from.
I've heard that a lot too.
But
I've heard it on both spectrums though.
No, I date Nigerian men, and I often clash with them because of the way they're raised. Because they feel like, that doesn't mean I won't date them. I date them. I'm just myself, so I don't give a fuck. If I have something to say, I'm going to say it. You may not like it.
If you don't like it, leave it.
But guess what? What's crazy is they like it. Because I ain't never had a problem.
Exposing facts.
But no, it's definitely like even so, the guy I'm dating right now.
Okay.
He thinks that he can just say boom, 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 and I'm supposed to be like, okay, get up, boom, boom. It's nah. Why? Where? What time? Can I do this? Can we do that? Like, no, I have an opinion where some Nigerian men are like, I don't care. Like, I have the money.
But and then on the other side of things, though, right? So you're saying that, as a black woman dating a non-black African man, according to your definition, that they have certain things that they, set as their standards in terms of dating, right? But on the African side of things, there's also African people that are like, yo, I'm not gonna date African American because, directly to Eni's point of, the family dynamic, right? Is this respect going to be something that I can, build with my children, with my non-African wife?
But I just feel like sometimes the definition of respect is so dated. Like, I can respect you and not agree with you.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes, but within that, I don't think that that's always the case. Like, because even for you, if you were to tell your parents growing up that you didn't necessarily agree with something that they were saying, they would say that you're disrespectful.
No, it's how I say it.
Okay, but I don't think it's how you say it. I feel like if growing up,
the message in general, you say is
growing up, if you went against your parents, because again, this is something that I've always been told.
Right. From episode 2, parental control.
Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, what my parents say is what we're doing.
Goes, right? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
And if I go against it, I could say like, I really don't agree with that. I gave you life. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I agree with that. Yes, that is definitely how it worked. You know what I'm saying? As a child, because as a child, you don't really have say
in anything.
But when I'm talking about, like, even now, there's a way that I communicate with my parents. I remember, I'm not saying that you do this, but I remember the first time I ever seen somebody curse in front of their parents. I was so
oh, yeah.
taken aback.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't even believe that this was real life, because
I couldn't even fathom.
Oh yeah, no, I went to high school with this guy. He said when he turned 18, he started calling his mom by her first name.
Jesus. Oh,
I turned 18. He said, "You call your mom?" I said, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why I said in many black families there are many similarities to African families.
For Nigerian men, I think it also has to do with if you were born here, or if you're a couple generations removed from Nigeria,
your parents are a little bit less traditional,
right?
I think that it really
and
just
then that
pertains.
It impacts how you pursue your relationships?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it just pertains to education. Really. Like if you have, as you said, well, one is an open mind, right? So you have an open mind. I also have an open mind, right? Now, I've been told by many people that I'm pretty traditionally Nigerian, but in my mindset, I don't. but in my mindset, I don't believe I'm traditionally Nigerian because of the education that I have and the open mind that I have, and just when I operate using like general logic, you know what I'm saying?
Think objectively.
Seeing individuals as equals. Mm-hmm. The manner of how to operate in that realm is very different than in the cultural Nigerian background that I was brought up in, where my father and I are not equals. Your wife and I are not equals. You know what I'm saying? We are. This is a spousal relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference in how the I guess it would be patriarchal society of how Africans are raised.
Gender roles.
Yeah, it's a difference. So like for me, like, if you're educated and you have that open mind and you as you said, do your own research and try to, take things for as they come, then yeah, of course, we should all be able to get along. But how many people are really doing that?
So then what are the different? So for you as a man, what's the difference between you dating a black woman versus an African woman?
Let's talk about it.
Oh, that's very simple. An African woman, there's an expectation of how she's raised. There's a clear expectation. If you're and that's literally drilled into us. Like I don't know how many it's not even African. It's specific to the tribe. Like they'll be like, oh, you need to go and find you an Igbo girl, or you need to go and find you a Yoruba girl, depending on which auntie is talking to me at the time. You know what I'm saying? That's really how it works. Because like if you're a Nigerian woman, and like I said, I'm Nigerian, so I can only speak about this. The way I was raised, if I'm coming to you and you're Nigerian, I expect you to have a very similar upbringing to me.
Okay.
And in that we can have the same conversations, the same mindset, the same mentality. As I approach a woman who is not from that culture, I don't have the same expectation, because I don't expect you to know what it means, like how some wives serve their husbands like food at the table.
Right.
That was one of the first arguments I ever had with a Nigerian man. I was like, I made the food. You want me to make the plate too? Like,
yeah, or just certain things that are just cultural. I mean, and I think that some Nigerian men definitely go overboard, because there are things in Nigerian culture that men are supposed to be doing as well,
right? Mm-hmm.
Like for women, and for just people. But some Nigerian men just think that, or some men in general, just be like, fuck it. Like, they just be like, fuck it. Yeah. But no. If you're in like a healthy relationship in which you actually love the person or care for the person, there is an expectation that comes from a person who's African that I don't have for a person who's not, because you're not from the culture. So I just don't expect you to have it.
Okay. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've unpacked a lot today. And this is definitely going to have to be a 2-part series, for sure.
We're coming back.
For sure. This is definitely going to have to be a 2-part series, ladies and gentlemen, but...
DMV shit.
You know what I'm saying? I usually don't reveal this, but, we're going to have to split this up a little bit, because I have a lot of talking points to talk about on today's episode. I'm definitely going to call this... I think I'm going to call this the Oppression Olympics.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
The Oppression Olympics, Africans versus African Americans. But like I said, though, man, we got Eenie Meenie, we got KR. Man. Follow them on their social media. Once again, this is part 1 of the Oppression Olympics, man. It's your boy, J.I. man. Follow me on social media at Joe the Great, JOETHEGR 8, as well as my podcast page, j.ade.pod. Follow Kirsten on IG at KRDOT, as well as the Black Renaissance Group. We got our boy Eenie Meenie, INIMEANIEE.
Double E.
On the ground. Y'all know what time it is, man. This is season 2, episode 8, man. We out.